Welcome to the I Ching Cafe. My name is Belinda Doveston and you are here with me for our weekly I Ching forecast for the week commencing the 14th of April 2025. Wow, last week as we cast our minds back, we had Hexagram 31 influence, warning us against getting too enthusiastic about what we say, having to pull our words back, being cautious of what we say, but also being tuned into what is calling to us, what's important, what is drawing us forward, the influences that are spurring us to act, and the influences that we are exerting on others to get them to move forward, to do the things that need to get done. Where did you feel the sense of attraction and kinship to something where with this hexagram, all the bits that belong together are being drawn together to find each other finally? And of course, we had that second hexagram. We were working through retreat, hexagram 33, through this process of influence, pulling back, withdrawing from something that is not of our highest and our best, and making a choice where we strategically retreat from something and change our approach, give ourselves time to refresh, renew, review, all the rewords of getting ourselves back into being ready for the next push out and realizing what it is that we needed to withdraw from. So as you worked with last week's energy, where did you feel that influence, the attraction? Where did you work with retreat? Perhaps you actually went on an actual retreat. Where did you pull back and have a little bit of time and space to pull back from the things that are happening all around you? If anything came up for you that was evidential or meaningful, please do leave a comment. So this week, the 14th of April, as we get stuck into this week, what is the I Ching asking us to pay attention to, what to focus on more than any other thing as a collective? And our first hexagram for this week is hexagram 41, decrease. Okay, so 42 is increase, 41 is decrease. Here, what we can think of as a symbol, imagine a small little reservoir on a dam, okay, and over time it's evaporating. So when you look at the dam level or the reservoir level is going down, 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 but the water is evaporating, and at some point, the water cycle, we've all learned that at school, that water will coalesce, condense, and come back down as rain at a later time, okay. So this hexagram is all about decreasing, making some kind of sacrifice now for the benefit of the future vision, of the future purpose, focus, project, business, relationship, whatever it might be, making the sacrifice now, reducing what's in excess to get the benefit of the bigger vision later. This hexagram often asks us to think carefully around where we spend our time and our energy, our money, our love and care. Where do we have tendrils of that energy linked into all kinds of things? Where can we cut back? Okay, where can we go into a little bit of an austerity measure on a couple of areas where there's just too much flowing out? And that flowing out can be your money, your love, your care, your energy, your attention. Where is that just flowing out the door, right? Just flowing out. And we need to cauterize it and bring it back, reduce what is in excess. It's always great when this hexagram comes up is to look at spending, for example, on a practical level. Look at your subscriptions, make some decisions around, do you need all those different subscriptions that just go off? You know, is there anything that you've been meaning to cancel that you haven't got time or energy or you keep forgetting? I've got a couple of those that I keep on forgetting, and then when the payment goes off my account, I'm like, oh, I must go sort it out. And then next month, before you know it, clunk, it goes again. So where can we reduce spending? Where can we work a little bit more economically? And where can we use that idea of working economically and reducing excess in other areas of our lives, in our energy, our care, our love and intention? Okay, so we look at our lives and we say, we have a bigger process we're working towards. What can we cut back now that can help us get to the next step intact? Decrease can also be about what's excessive. Excessive spending, excessive time, excessive unnecessary, wasteful expenditure of our life force. Where do we need to cut back? Another way to think about this hexagram, and I used this example before, is letting go of the need for instant gratification, the now, and putting that off for some future bigger gain. Sacrifice means being willing to let go of the lower in exchange for something of a higher. That's what sacrifice means. It doesn't mean loss for no purpose. You sacrifice now for something that's bigger later. So we think about, what can we let go of now for the bigger picture? What is the bigger picture you're working towards? Do you need to make an investment now for a future return? We can think in a business point of view, cutting back expenses, absolutely. Where can we trim and reduce? We also look at things like, where can we spend now? So in other words, our reservoir goes down. What's in the cash tank, okay, goes down, but it's for a future outcome, all right? We're spending money on the piece of equipment now, but that piece of equipment is going to 10x our opportunity in 3 months' time. It's that kind of energy of, where can this reduce process happen that gives us the bigger gain. Yes, it might feel like an entrepreneur or a business owner or a team working with this energy, you might feel like the cash is low. Okay, so you tend to find in weeks and months where we have this decreased energy, is a sense that the tank is a little low. Okay, but it's like a time period that then it builds back up again. So just be aware of that. Don't panic, but focus on, where can we let go of things we don't need? Where can we decrease, all right, our spend that we're working through? And how might connecting back to last week's retreat, because they tend to fit together as a story, where did the retreat you made last week, what did you pull back from last week, mean that you can make a decrease now? Okay, what decision did you make last week around retreating from something no longer of the highest for you that has allowed you to then make a decrease now? Okay, now we have one changing line in the 4th position, and this changing line is called decrease the afflictions you face. Okay, so what is an affliction? So this is the strategy for this week, is decreasing the afflictions. That's what sits between the first hexagram and the second hexagram as a key strategy for the week. An affliction has 2 dimensions. One is challenges we face in the outside world. Situations, people, partnerships, whatever it might be. Situations that are no longer good for us. They might have been good for us in a previous time, but they've done their time. They now harm us, okay? Those afflictions we need to get out of, okay? Wherever we are experiencing harm, we really need to look at those situations and we need to decrease them. The second aspect of decrease is decreasing our faults. Okay, so the one is an external situation, the other one is an internal. Where can we decrease our internal faults? That might be habits or patterns that undermine our ability to aggregate abundance, to build those relationships, to build those teams, to grow things in your life. Where do we face these faults? What is the fault? We all have a fault, numerous faults, okay. Where is that fault? Okay, and what do we need to do this week to decrease that fault? Because in a way, the faults we face and the afflictions that we are locked into that we don't decrease in our lives keep at bay the people and resources we actually do need, that do bring energy, that do bring growth, that do bring future. So while we are stuck in these faults, faulty thinking, erroneous belief systems, habits that don't serve us and the people around us anymore, and these afflictions, while we tolerate them, okay, and we don't decrease them, we keep at bay the things that we actually do need. And the moment we can get rid of some of these problems, all right, we can then bring the energy back in. That is our strategy for the week. That leaves for us a second hexagram, because we have a changing line, and that second hexagram is 38 opposition. This is the hexagram of oil and water that do not mix. We have had this hexagram many, many times. It's the story of how we face a situation of opposing interests, opposing views, things that don't seem to gel, a feeling perhaps internally of being at odds, okay, and being in 2 minds about a particular thing. And our task is to turn the conflict of that, the opposition, into creative tension. You've no doubt remember me saying this is about how we make mayonnaise. We have the vinegar and we have the oil. They do not mix. And then we bring in the egg, we bring in the emulsifier, and we whiz it up, and suddenly we have something new. It's bound together in a new way. We have an emulsion. And that is the idea of what we're trying to do. We either accept that if there's a situation where there's diverging interests, that we cut our paths, right, and we go in different directions and we make that decision. That's one path we can take with this hexagram. The other path is to reimagine it, okay, is to re-emulsify it into something new, to bring creative energy into transforming it in a new direction. It's not about this side winning or that side winning. It's about both sides creating something new that we can move forward with. That's the energy of opposition and what we are learning through this hexagram. So if we look back and we look at, all right, this energy of decrease, this changing line of reducing our afflictions, okay, getting out of situations that are not good for us anymore, that are harmful, what we can see is that the second hexagram gives us a clue as to how to move through that changing line. We either accept that the paths diverge and we end those afflictions, we end those relationships, we end those associations, right? We shut things down. Paths diverging, end of story. Or we transform them through this creative energy. Those are our two choices. And only you can decide for the things and the afflictions that are part of your life and your reality, which one this week is going to take front and center stage. And perhaps there are many different afflictions this week that require different strategies. As we work with this hexagram, the way it's going to bring value for this week's forecast to your life is taking the idea of we need to decrease the afflictions we face, okay, and the internal faults, our erroneous beliefs. And we can either cut ties with something, accept that the paths diverge, or we can apply creative energy into transforming it into something new. And only you can decide what is the most valuable thing to do. But we do have a tendency to think that when something is not working, it's not meant to be, and we need to move on. And most of the time, the biggest learning, the biggest journey of development comes through finding a new way of emulsifying the situation. Something new, a new approach that brings things together and creates power and energy. Just like in an atom, you have all these components that are pulling at each other, but there's a synergy when you have a nice stable atom, things just hook together and something new is created. Some new material is manifested in your life. Thank you so much for being here with me for this week's overview. I look forward to connecting with you soon. In the meantime, if this was useful, a like or thumbs up would be great. Subscribe if you're new. Click on that bell so you get the notifications or the follow button, and I'll see you soon.